Top 5 Best Travel Laptops. Number 5. Microsoft Surface Go 2. Looking for an inexpensive, tiny laptop that's perfect for travel? The Microsoft Surface Go 2 is our top pick for minimalists who want the absolute smallest machine they can get their hands on. Weighing a paltry 0.544 kilograms and measuring a tiny 9.65 by 6.9 by 0.33 inches, the Microsoft Surface Go 2 is a tablet-cum-laptop that's only about the size of an iPad and barely heavier than the same, so it's no surprise that Microsoft claims this to be its smallest and lightest two-in-one laptop. The Surface Go 2 is the latest update to the original Surface Go, although there haven't been any monumental changes made. There have, however, been a few subtle improvements, including a bigger display, better computing performance and slightly improved battery life. If you're unfamiliar with the Surface Go laptops, they're basically tablets that run Windows 10 Home, to which you can magnetically attach a backlit keyboard called a type cover, which comes in a variety of color options including ice blue, poppy red, platinum, black, etc. The type cover does bump up the starting price by $100 and also weighs about 0.5 pounds, increasing the total weight of the laptop to 1.7 pounds, but even then it remains a very light machine. The build quality is surprisingly good considering the starting price, with a robust magnesium casing and an aesthetically pleasing design with a platinum finish. On the backside of the display is a kickstand that folds out to prop up the device in landscape mode. The kickstand works well if you have a roomy, non-slip flat surface, but it doesn't work so well on a teeny airplane tray. The 10.5 inches touchscreen Pixel Sense display with its 3:2 aspect ratio is made from Corning Gorilla Glass 3 and has a full HD resolution with a pixel density of 220 pixels per inch. While the display is definitely on the small side, the bezels on the Surface Go 2 are slightly smaller than those on the original Surface Go, which results in the latest model's display being slightly larger. When it comes to color range and accuracy, the display has 100% sRGB coverage and the relatively high contrast ratio of 1500:1 ensures decent picture quality. The brightness goes up to 400 nits, which is on the threshold of what might be considered bright enough for outdoor use. The Surface Go 2 has two cameras, a front 5-megapixel 1080 pixels webcam that's flanked by dual studio mics and an 8-megapixel rear camera that can do 1080 pixels video and can scan documents or take photos as well. The Surface Go 2's cameras absolutely crush the ones in much more expensive laptops like the Macbook Air and Dell XPS 13. If you want to write or draw on the touchscreen display, you can do that with the Surface Pen, which uses Microsoft Intuit technology. It's not as good as, say, an iPad Pro Pencil, but it's pretty darn good compared to some of the other stylus pens out there. The base model comes with 4 GB of RAM and 64 GB of eMMC storage, but the 8 GB of RAM with 128 GB of SSD storage combo is significantly faster and will be the better choice if you plan to do anything more than the bare minimum with this laptop. But if you'd still prefer the base option, don't worry too much about the pretty meager 64 GB of onboard storage, as the laptop does have a microSD slot that'll allow you to more than quadruple the base storage for around $50. As for the CPU, you can have the laptop configured with either the Intel Pentium Gold 4425Y or the faster Intel 8th Gen Core M3 chip if you want to spend about $150 more. The former is a low-end chip and is only able to adequately handle very light computing tasks like surfing the web or typing up a document. If you want to do anything more than the bare minimum with this laptop, you'll unfortunately need to go for the much faster Intel Core M3 processor, which will add more than $200 to the starting price. The dual front-facing 2W stereo speakers are equipped with Dolby Audio, which is fine for listening to music, audiobooks, podcasts, and streaming movies, but the major issue with the speakers on the Surface Go 2 is that they're just too quiet. Many smartphones will even put out louder sound. The ample port array consists of a microSD card reader, a USB-C port, a Surface Connect port, used for charging with the included 24W fast charger, in addition to other Microsoft accessories like the USB-C Travel Hub or the Surface Dock 2, and a 3.5mm audio combo jack. LTE is an optional add-on with the Surface Go 2. If you go for it, you'll be able to pop in a nano SIM card and always have internet connectivity on the go whenever there's a cellular signal. Battery life with the Surface Go is officially up to 10 hours, and you might approach that with the Pentium chip, but if you go for the Core M3 chip, a more realistic number for typical use would be 7 to 8 hours. In other words, The battery should just about get you through a day of honest work at a coffee shop and maybe a medium-haul flight of movie binging. Even if the battery life is a little disappointing, the upside is that it only takes an hour or so to charge the battery up to 100% from completely dead. Considering its diminutive size and affordability, the Surface Go 2 has a lot to offer, with a nice touchscreen display, excellent front and rear cameras, expandable storage, great connectivity and a flexible 2-in-1 design with detachable keyboard. While the processor and storage that come with the base model are slow, they can be avoided by spending an extra few $100, and the battery life isn't too bad either. That's why we think the Microsoft Surface Go 2 is the perfect travel laptop for the minimalist traveler who wants a ultra-lightweight machine with a tiny footprint above all else. Pros: tiny and ultra-light. Base model is very cheap. Nice touchscreen display. Great connectivity. Very flexible. Expandable storage with microSD slot. CONS. Speakers are very quiet. Battery life is underwhelming. Base model has poor performance. Coming in number 4. Lenovo Flex 14 inches 2-in-1. Looking for a great travel laptop without the high price tag? In that case, you'll need something that'll give you bang for your buck. The Lenovo Flex 14 inches 2-in-1 is a convertible laptop like the HP Spectre X360 13T that we reviewed above, but it's much more affordable and still very capable. Weighing in at 1.6 kilograms, the Lenovo Flex isn't the lightest machine out there, but that's one of the few compromises that this laptop has had to make in order to cut costs. The chassis measures 12.91 by 9.02 by 0.7 inches, so it's not quite as small or as thin as the other machines we've looked at so far, but the laptop still easily qualifies for the Ultrabook designation. It's mostly constructed from a sturdy, high-quality plastic and comes in a single finish, onyx black. The keyboard is well laid out, enjoyable to type on, and even has 2 backlight modes, which come in handy if you're typing at night. Just below the keyboard is the trackpad, which is sizable, smooth and works better than most in this price range. It supports pinching, zooming, scrolling and all the other Windows 10 gestures. You can also create customized gestures for the trackpad, like multi-finger taps and swipes for controlling volume or switching programs. Even though the glossy FHD touchscreen display of the laptop is 14 inches, the slim screen bezels on the top and sides mean that the machine actually fits perfectly into a 13 inches MacBook Air laptop case. Some users might not fancy the large bezel running across the bottom of the screen, but this has the positive effect of elevating the display closer to the user's eye level. The maximum display brightness of 224 nits is a little on the low side. It's fine for indoor viewing, but you may struggle with it outdoors on a bright day. Included with the laptop is the Active Pen, a stylus which lets you sketch or take notes directly on the touch screen. It comes with an Quad-A battery that should last for months. One annoying thing about the Active Pen, however, is that when it's mounted on the side of the laptop, it blocks the 2 USB-C ports and the memory card reader. Unlike most other machines in this price range, the Lenovo Flex 14 offers 8GB of RAM and 256GB of storage, which is the standard you'd expect from a more expensive laptop. The AMD Ryzen 5 3500U processor in the Lenovo Flex 14 is easily capable of handling everyday tasks like internet browsing and streaming, and is powerful enough to cope with more demanding tasks like photo editing, video editing, and graphic design. The Radeon Vega 8 integrated graphics, which steals some of the available RAM, will allow for a decent enough gaming experience with many popular titles. When it comes to ports, the Lenovo Flex 14 inches has 6 of them in total. There's a headphone jack, a HDMI port and a USB-C port on the left side of the keyboard deck, and on the right side you'll find 2 USB 3.1 Type-A ports and a half-depth SD card reader, along with the power and reset buttons. One of the 2 USB 3.1 ports is always on and can be used to charge a mobile device even when the laptop is powered off. As for audio, you have a pair of Harman Kardon speakers, which are a step up from those on your average laptop. The 4-cell lithium-ion 45Wh battery promises a fairly average 8 hours of battery of life, which should get you through short and medium-haul flights or a day of work at Starbucks, but you couldn't count on it for long-haul flights. Despite the unspectacular battery life, the innovative integrated rapid charge technology at least ensures that when the battery does run low, you can quickly charge it back up to 80% in just 1 hour. The Flex also sports a fingerprint reader, and its True Block privacy shutter lets you physically close the 720 pixels webcam when not in use for greater peace of mind. Pros: great specs considering the price. Quality keyboard and trackpad. Very nice selection of ports. Fast charging battery. .cons. A little heavy for travel. Screen brightness is inadequate for outdoor use. Active stylus blocks the ports when mounted on the side of the laptop. Battery life is unspectacular. Coming in number 3. MacBook Pro 13 inches 2020. While the Dell XPS 13 and the MacBook Air 2020 are the best laptops for leisure travelers, the MacBook Pro 13 inches is a better choice for the digital nomad, freelancer, remote worker, travel content creator, business traveler, or anyone else that needs to get some serious work done on the road. The MacBook Pro actually comes in two different sizes, the 13-inch and the 16-inch. The latter is a more powerful machine, but its size and weight makes it less suitable for travel, so we'll be reviewing the 13 inches model here. The 2020 version of the MacBook Pro 13 inches has much in common with the MacBook Air 2020 and might be best described as a beefed-up form of the latter. Weighing in at 1.4 kilograms and measuring 11.97 by 8.36 by 0.61 inches, the MacBook Pro 13 inches has the same footprint as the Air 2020, but is ever so slightly slimmer and about 11 grams heavier. When it comes to appearance, both laptops look so similar that a casual observer would probably fail to discern the differences between the two, though there are some subtle distinctions. One of those distinctions is that the chassis of the MacBook Pro lacks the tapering, wedge-shaped profile of the MacBook Air and instead has a virtually uniform thickness, making it feel more robust and substantial. Another way you might be able to tell the two apart at a glance is that only the Air comes in the rose gold finish, while the Pro only comes in the space gray and silver finishes. When you start looking at the keyboard decks, you'll notice a few more small differences. Both laptops use the new backlit Magic Keyboard, but the MacBook Pro is more comfortable to type on for long periods because the deck doesn't taper to a sharp edge like in the MacBook Air. The Pro also has a slightly larger trackpad and its keyboard has a touch bar running along its top edge, a feature absent from the Air. The touch bar is a touch-enabled OLED panel that replaces the function keys found on a normal keyboard. If an app is supported, various icons will light up on the touch bar as controls for that app. There are also permanent icons on the touch bar for adjusting basic functions of the laptop like sound volume and display brightness. Some people think it's a bit of a gimmick, but others appreciate the feature. The 13.3 inches QHD IPS Retina non-touch display of the MacBook Pro supports True Tone technology like that of the MacBook Air. Both displays have the same size, resolution, and aspect ratio, but there are also some differences. One difference is in the maximum brightness level. The Pro's display goes all the way up to 500 nits like the XPS 13, while the Air's display only achieves 389 nits of brightness. The Pro's display also has better color accuracy since it supports the DCI-P3 white color gamut, allowing it to display about 25% more colors than the Air. This is one of the reasons that this laptop is a better choice for travelers that are into photography or filmmaking. The MacBook Pro has a 720 pixels FaceTime HD webcam just like the MacBook Air. In practice, the two webcams are pretty identical in terms of image quality and the microphones sound similar too. When it comes to audio quality, the MacBook Pro's stereo speakers also support Dolby Atmos surround sound like the Air, but the speakers definitely sound a bit nicer than those of the Air. Interestingly though, it's the MacBook Air speakers that are the louder of the two. As for storage, the Pro's hard drive has significantly faster read and write speeds than the Air's. The base model has 256 GB of SSD storage, and this can be configured all the way up to 4 TB if you've got the financial means. Like the Air, the base model of the MacBook Pro 13 comes with 8 GB of RAM, but this can be configured up to 32 GB instead of 16 GB. When it comes to computing performance, the Pro surpasses the MacBook Air by a large margin, which is why digital nomads, remote workers, business travelers, photographers, and other traveling professionals should go for the Pro if they're set on getting a Mac. The faster U-series Intel chips in the MacBook Pro draw more power and have higher clock speeds than those in the Pro, which translates into significantly better performance. The base model of the MacBook Pro uses the 1.4 GHz quad-core 8th Gen Intel Core i5 chip, but you can also upgrade to more expensive configurations that use the 1.7 GHz quad-core 8th Gen Intel Core i7. the 2.0 GHz quad-core 10th Gen Intel Core i7 or the 2.3 GHz quad-core 10th Gen Intel Core i7 processors. Comparing the graphics, the base model of the MacBook Pro uses the older Intel Iris Plus Graphics 645, which surprisingly managed to outperform the newer Intel Iris Plus Graphics G4 on the MacBook Air, although the Core i5 version of the Air comes with better G7 graphics. Moving on to the ports, the base model of the MacBook Pro is identical to the Air, with two USB-C Thunderbolt 3 ports on the left-hand side and a single 3.5mm headphone jack on the right-hand side. But if you upgrade from the base model of the Pro, you get two additional Thunderbolt 3 ports on the right. In the box you get the same 2 meters long USB-C charging cable that you get with the MacBook Air, but the Pro comes with a more powerful 61-watt USB-C power adapter. Like the MacBook Air, the MacBook Pro lacks support for the latest Wi-Fi 6 standard, although that's only likely to become an issue a few years down the road, since at this point in time very few wireless routers support it either. The battery life of the MacBook Pro is similar to that of the MacBook Air overall, and should get you through a full day of light work or a medium-haul flight's worth of movie watching. Apple officially promises up to 10 hours wireless web browsing and the same for Apple TV app movie playback. Overall, the MacBook Pro is a significantly better laptop than the MacBook Air, with a more substantial build, a more comfortable keyboard to type on, a larger trackpad, a slightly better display, more optional RAM and storage, and significantly more computing power. But it is more expensive, and its additional capabilities are beyond the needs most travelers, which is why it doesn't make our runner-up position for the best overall travel laptop. If you need a workhorse on the road though, and you're fond of macOS, this is the laptop to go for. Pros: robust chassis, comfortable keyboard for typing, display supports DCI-P3 color gamut, up to 4 Thunderbolt 3 ports, lots of computing power, CONS, no touch display, no USB-A ports or adapter, no Wi-Fi 6 support, not affordable for everyone. Coming in number 2. Dell XPS 13 inches. The Dell XPS is best mid-range laptop for travel because of its superb battery life, 7th generation core performance and excellent Wi-Fi range. I love that it has more ports than on competing laptops, as well as an SD port. It also has a touchscreen higher resolution option. As for its design, the Dell XPS has a comfortable soft touch, carbon fiber deck, infinity display, and rose color option. Often the trade-off for a thin, best ultralight laptop is shorter battery life and too few ports. The XPS 13, however, gives you nearly 14 hours of battery power, and all the connection options you need while also remaining pretty light and compact for travel. If you are a PC user, the Dell XPS 13 inches is the best travel computer within the $1,000 range. Though if you want more memory than 256 megabytes, or an i7 processor, you will have to pay more money. This is a high-quality laptop at a great price. Is the Dell XPS right for you? For under $1,000, you should be able to find a high-quality travel laptop for many of the specs that matter most to the average traveler: weight, portability, and reliability. If you are willing to spend a couple hundred more, I would recommend picking up the Dell. Pros: incredible value. Powerful, good for those who work and travel. Great alternative if you don't like Apple products. CONS: pricey for a PC. Touchscreen option is very expensive. Coming in number 1. Apple MacBook Air laptop. This is the best travel laptop. If you're an Apple user, this is Apple's best Mac laptop for the money, and this was the first laptop I took traveling which was adequate for working online. The pros are its integration with Apple products, ease of use, trackpad and keyboard, design, and reliable performance. I've used MacBooks for 7 years now, and I've never needed repairs. I can't say the same for any of the PCs I've owned, which is why I think Macs are the best user-friendly laptops if you don't have a computer background. If you want a MacBook for browsing, streaming, social, and office, the MacBook Air is fast enough, especially with 2017's updated processor speed and default memory. But if you want a Retina resolution screen, Kaby Lake processors, and more power for editing programs, you'll have to fork out the money for a MacBook Pro instead. I recommend you go for as much storage as you can afford if you plan on storing music, images, or video, because you can add storage to Apple computers after purchase. If your laptop is used for browsing and light document work, the 128GB should be fine. Is the MacBook Air for you? If you are looking for a light laptop that can handle all of your basic internet needs and then a little bit more, the MacBook Air is my highest recommendation. Its light and sleek design makes it ideal for travelers, and it comes at a reasonable price. Pros: fast and durable. Lightweight. Can handle your internet needs and then some. Cons: not as powerful as other options. Not good for working professionals.